Organic farms are great. Community gardens are great. But we have one big problem, because a lot of people are still going to have to eat food, and they eat food by buying food from their grocery stores that's conventionally grown. Who picks that food? Farm workers pick the food that all of us eat every day. In the shadow of this beautiful downtown Orlando, 10 miles away, we have a community of people, mostly brown and black people, that are working every day in the hot sun and all kinds of conditions to grow the food that we eat. We must not forget those people, and our enthusiasm for GMOs for ourselves and our enthusiasm for community gardens. We must not forget about the farm workers that are out there every day exposed to the pesticides made by Monsanto. Let me tell you a little story. This is hard for me to talk about. About 2 months ago, a young woman came to our office to complain about she worked in a nursery. She didn't work in food, but she worked in a nursery. She complained about being harassed by her employer. After talking to her, we found out that she worked in a nursery where they sprayed Roundup all the time and all around her. She had no protection. She was doing her job. She's an undocumented immigrant. She has to work. And she was exposed to Roundup on a daily basis. Because she's undocumented, she's afraid to speak out against the abuse in her workplace. The woman is 30 years old. She's from Guatemala. The woman sat in front of me and she shook the whole time she was standing in front of me, because she said that she was exposed a year and a half ago to pesticides and she couldn't breathe for 2 days. She couldn't go to a doctor because she has no insurance. You've probably read that Roundup's been linked to Parkinson's disease. I'm afraid that this young 30-year-old undocumented farm worker woman, immigrant, might have Parkinson's disease. She is doing this work because she has to, and she was sending her money back home to her family, and so she had to have her job. As the pesticide project coordinator for the Farm Worker Association of Florida, it was heartbreaking to me to be able to have to tell her that our laws are not good enough to protect her, that there's no insurance for her to help get health care. And I was going to commit $100 of my own money so she could go to the doctor. The only problem is, because she has no money, she can't pay for her cell phone bill, and now we don't know how to get in touch with her. So that's up close and personal about what Roundup does and what Monsanto does. One more story. For the past 15 years, I've been working with a community of people that used to work on the farms on Lake Apopka. That's food. They used to grow food on Lake Apopka. Carrots, cabbage, tomatoes, all kinds of other kinds of food. Farm workers worked on those fields. They were mostly African American farm workers for many generations, and they were exposed to a toxic soup of chemical pesticides when they worked on the farms on Lake Apopka. And I want everybody here to know about Lake Apopka, because it's in our backyard and people don't know about Lake Apopka. Lake Apopka is an international issue because of the bird deaths and the alligator malformations and reproductive problems on Lake Apopka, and they are indicators of what's affecting all of us, because the same pesticides on Lake Apopka are the same pesticides that affect all of us. I'm a little sad today because this past week we lost one of the farm workers on Lake Apopka who used to be really active in our group. Her name was Betty Woods, so I'm dedicating this to Betty Woods. Just one more thing, because you need to know this. We've been fighting for 15 years to try and get some health care and some help and some recognition and validation for the farm workers on Lake Apopka. So about 3 years ago, we partnered with Pesticide Action Network International. Pesticide Action Network International identified community groups from around the world, including Bhopal, India, that have been affected by pesticides. There were 3 groups from the United States, and the Lake Apopka farm workers were one of the groups that were part of this. We put on trial before the Permanent People's Tribunal, which is an international people's court. We put the 6 largest pesticide companies on trial for violations of human rights, the right to life, the right to a healthy environment, and the right to health. We put them on trial, and the trial was December of 2011. And it was a regular trial with lawyers and everything. Monsanto and the other 5 big pesticide companies were a part of that trial, and the verdict was guilty as charged. Last week, we spoke to the State Department, Bureau of Democracy, Human Rights, and Labor, and we're trying to get this Bureau of the State Department to take action against the large mega corporations that are poisoning people, to have some kind of accountability. We're going to be having a big campaign on this. We're going to be calling on all of you, so please get your email addresses. We'll have it on our Facebook page. You can check the Farm Worker Association of Florida. We're going to need your support. But in your campaign to hold Monsanto accountable, don't forget about the most vulnerable people, and that's the farm workers in the field that are the first line of exposure to Monsanto's horrible, dastardly deeds. So with that, thank you very, very much. Keep up the good fight. Don't let them get away with it. Thank you. Just say no to Monsanto. Just say no to Monsanto. Just say no to Monsanto. Just say no to Monsanto.